How long were you in the Christian church space?
A long time. They call it deconstructing your faith. That's become like a massive trend in the evangelical world. When you come from a real structured form of a religion and you kind of get out of it, I went through my own version of that. And so when that crumbles, you can still kind of go through it and some stuff might have survived. And now what I always say is Jesus and I are seeing other people or we have an open relationship. There's something in being able to accept the darkness because in the Christianity, it's so easy to go like, oh, that's bad. Get away from that kind of thing. What I feel like I've learned about how to be better in relationships is like, I actually have to own my shadow. There's no light without shadow. I think part of the reason why I ended up choosing Christianity in the first place was like, okay, well now I can be good by this. But for a lot of guys, we make ourselves bad. The difference between shame and guilt is shame is like you are fundamentally bad, wrong, broken. I want to be able to hold myself as good, even if my preference and opinion feels like something that is hurtful or I'm not supposed to, or it's taboo. Now it's like, I want to understand what my own preferences are. And it actually feels like shameful, partly because what dad's expectations of me were tons of love and support. And yet still that like pressure to succeed. Now I have this like pressure on myself to try to be cool instead of to succeed. That doesn't feel like a winning strategy.
When we deconstruct those things, it's like, I'm just looking for external validation.
I'm just looking for validation. But the thing I'm most proud of is the presence that I've cultivated. That's what I wanted in my life growing up. I don't always nail it, but the older I get, the better I keep getting. And that feels cool.
So this is second time you've been on the podcast?
Yeah, first time was with the Londo's
crew.
group. Yeah.
Yeah. But you've been in and around the podcast for a while now.
Yeah.
Shooting a lot of awesome B-roll content.
Yeah.
and-
Matterful Productions.
Yes, sir.
Working out with filming you doing workouts before the podcast.
Yeah.
Sometimes sitting in the back here,
Yeah.
getting some B-roll.
That's been a kind of fun season to play around with that and kind of see what the production can grow into,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I've got just like, I'm self-taught, no lessons on all that stuff. So it's just kind of like run and gun, see what we can get. And I like it when it feels just really like visceral in the moment, organic.
Yeah.
Because I think the conversations you end up getting into outside of this podcast space are arguably even better, right?
Mhm.
Like being with Ron White on the golf course and just seeing shit that comes up there,
Yeah.
right? Which will be coming soon. But
Yeah.
like, I've watched that so much the last 10 years of my life. I've been a podcaster, video maker, course maker for so long. And everything changes once there's a camera and it's rolling and the mics are on and the lights are on. And it's like, it all gets it doesn't have the same, like, I don't know. You're not in such a rich vein, it doesn't feel like. So that idea of getting stuff as it's happening and being able to kind of like slink into the background a bit and kind of hold that, like Boyd was saying about the Pondo Land trip, was like, you didn't even know there was cameras rolling.
Yeah, that's one of your gifts is you're not present in the action of what's happening.
Yeah. Trying to, it's like I can do it with my energy. You just kind of make yourself as little as possible.
Yeah.
And there's also like, I find myself really interested in what people are saying too. So that helps. You know, half the time I'm asking questions from
Yeah.
behind the camera.
Yeah.
And but it doesn't fuck with it too much.
No,
you know?
no. And I think the beauty of I was like, when we're doing the workout and what the conversations that come out of that is we get, physical exertion.
Yeah.
It just allows us to get out of our mind and we just kind of drop into like what's coming up.
Totally. The one with Eben,
Yeah.
after you guys were just like going hard and then it's like these conversations just wanted to happen while you're resisting getting on the final fucking, what do you call that thing? The salt bike? Yeah. I loved that. That was great.
How much, you obviously shoot a ton of content for your YouTube channel. Are you doing much other stuff outside of that? I mean, we work together, but
I do advertisements for brands. So I have a lot of relationships with brands because my YouTube channel has been, basically I'm the ShamWow guy for products that I'm interested in, travel bags, men's pants, barefoot shoes, just stuff that's like my own life, kind of like a personal shopper that way, but also like this is the stuff that I like. I'm not great at necessarily telling, here's what the market looks like, and you could choose this and this, that, and the other. It connects more when I'm like, I fucking love this thing, and just going with that. Same with you and all this. You can't see, but there's like shelves over here full of Cal's favorite stuff. I'm also working, because I have so many of those relationships with brands. I work with brands occasionally to help them make creative for advertisements, because the advertising game, you need to just like make a bunch of shit and throw it at the algorithm and see what sticks. And so the bottleneck right now seems to be making stuff that might, the creative actual, that might stick. You know what I mean? When you're scrolling and something will actually stop you and pay attention, that's, there seems to be a very high premium on that right now. And I'm not like the best in the world at that. I have a very specific way of doing that, but it seems to work.
Well, what I've loved, not just the entertainment value of watching your videos, whether it's long form on YouTube or what I see on Instagram, is out of that, certainly your creativity, and when you create a song around whatever you're sharing, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you've kind of did that enough to reconnect with that part of that singer-songwriter part of yourself. And I know that here in the men's group, you've been more active in that space. And so how am I correct in that assessment? Or
totally. I mean,
what's that journey been like?
I've been a musician longer than I've been anything else, but always, again, mostly self-taught, no lessons. And then I got a laptop and could record shit when I was in college. And so I have hundreds of songs that that nobody's ever heard, And like that, I normally work and get it like most of the way there, and then don't quite finish it off, or like they just trail off into some 5-minute, improvisational music, fucking odyssey or something.
Yeah.
But I also was a worship leader in an evangelical, like prophetic worship Christian spaces for a long time. And
how did you get into that, by the way?
I wasn't raised Christian at all. I got into that in high school. And because I wanted to go smoke weed at a buddy's house. And he was like, and if I was going to smoke weed, I wanted to spend the night. This was, I think, in junior high, maybe freshman year of high school. And because I didn't want to come home stoned.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, if you spend the night, my mom's going to make you go to church tomorrow. And so that was my first time going to church. I also remember that probably one of the first times getting stoned and drinking like a Diet Coke and going like, what the fuck? And I would do this thing where I'd like sit in the chair and slowly move this way. And it'd feel like water sort of like pushing me this way. And I'd have to like fight against the stream to come back. This is the beginning of my meditative practice for sure.
Wow.
But the going to church the next day was the first time I ever been to church. And it was what's called a seeker sensitive church. So the Sunday morning service was like, hey, this is cool. Like, you're all welcome here. This is fine. Look at this U2 song. It's kind of spiritual. So that was, and I liked it enough. And then I went with that same friend to the snowboarding trip. And that was the first time I saw someone light their fart on fire, which I thought was like, that's incredible. I had no idea that could happen, And then eventually I find myself on like a missions trip in Mexico at building houses and playing music and shit in this like town not too far from the border. And that's where, and it was again, like, that's where I became a Christian, where I like dedicated my life to Christ, was like on a missions trip, which is normally backwards. Normally you start as a Christian and then find yourself in a missions trip kind of thing. But this church was a little bit, everything was set up that way. It was really cool. And another thing that those kinds of churches, evangelical churches, have music like pretty fucking solid a lot of the times. So there was this emotional, almost romantic connection to the Lord through this music, right? This kind of like romantic, like heart longing kind of thing, which shows up in scripture throughout. These kinds of frequencies are like in there. But to do it with like these vamping, I don't know if you ever heard of Hillsong, but that was after my time in the church, but like huge reason why that got so big was because that music was just like, oh, it's vibey, you connect to it, but it's also like, it's like there's love songs, There's something really deep and emotional about the music itself. And I was totally connected to that. I loved that. So fast forward forever, I had like kind of put down guitar, put down music. I had to make money. I had kids and family, and marketing was my career.
Yeah.
And so it was all focused on that. I was always like, I'm a good guitar player and a good singer. I can fuck with it,
Yeah.
And at some point it just started happening more and more, and then started doing the video, like the intro songs on some of the videos.
Oh yeah.
Which were really fun for me, because I can kind of put it together.
How much of it is you writing stuff down, or you just kind of getting the right chord and just riffing?
Just, like, honestly, most of the time I'm grabbing a backing track from my music Epidemic Sound, which I use for all my tracks. And then I'm just throwing together lyrics on top. Like the last one that I did was on Dad Bags, the Father's Day, like Dad Bags thing. And it's great. It's like a dubstep rap song. It's so fucking,
Oh my God.
I had so much fun making it. It took I wanted to share with everybody before it was out, but I had to just wait till I finished the video on it. And the first thing, I literally pulled that track in, recorded myself just like, just like rhythmically kind of. And then I would go back and just make the lyrics with those kinds of rhythms to it. And it's just something I'm good at. I'm like efficient at that.
You are really good at it. Just in my experience, when we were in South Africa, I was going to say the first time, because the second time we were in Ponderland, dude, you sitting around with Boyd and his family and just the shit you were coming up with.
I love
song after song.
Yeah. But, and like Boyd said after that, it's like, sometimes it gets really sad.
Yeah, it does.
It gets so, that's what's sad. That's what's scary about it. It gets sad, it does. I think that's probably why I connect to the music so much. There's like a lot of sadness, I think, and that's okay. That's okay. I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But improvising songs is like being right on the edge of something, and I don't know what I'm going to say, and I'm curious to see what I'm going to say. And if you get in your head even a little bit, you're fucked. You're so fucked. You're it's just like probably like any sort of athletic endeavor or anything. It's like the more in your head you are, the less flow you actually end up having. And sometimes you can kind of like be like, all right, don't care, go into this. And also I have to look at what's real. Like, so that's why it sometimes gets sad, Because
that's true, right? And you're not making shit up. You're actually tapping into like truth.
Yeah. And there's a lot of ways to make up songs that are really bad. For some reason, I sometimes I do that. But there's just, I don't know if I read the right books as a kid or had the right influences or something, but it's enough, when someone like a Boyd or my friend Jay in Canada is like, that's pretty good. Like I respect that, because they're like, these are people who get just as, triggered or crabby as I do when you see something bad and it's like #poem and you're like, all right, fuck this guy, this is bullshit.
How long were you in the kind of Christian church worship?
Dude, a long time, a really long time. That was like from high school all the way through till we left the church. Probably, so it would probably ended up being 12 years, maybe 15, but probably around 12 years. We left the church when I think before my son was born. So like 15 years ago.
Were you at the same church?
Different ones throughout.
Okay.
Yeah. And I traveled around Europe and met with a bunch of different churches during the trip that I ended up meeting the woman who became my wife, now my former partner. And I just had a dream of like, the college that I went to was called Westmont. It's in Santa Barbara. It's up in the hills, and it's a tiny little Christian school that basically is like almost kind of talking me out of the faith. They're like, hey, just so you know, this is a massive scandal. This whole,
come on, how
the fucking Bible came to be, all this stuff is a huge scandal.
Come on.
Right?
Tell me more about that. Actually.
Great. Like the thing that I ended up, I have a bachelor's of science in biblical studies, which is a BS in BS, but it was studying critically the scripture of most of it ended up being the New Testament, but the Old Testament or Hebrew Bible as well. C.S. Lewis said that like translating the Hebrew is like art. It's like blood in the temple. Translating Greek is like water. It's like in a stream. It's like clear and it's more precise. And that's very much the kind of the Old Testament stuff just feels so old. It's great. One of the things we studied was other creation myths that were around before or the same time as the sort of the Hebrew story. And you just learn a lot about ancient traditions, right? Like how you see how a culture imagines how life came to be ends up really defining a lot of what they think life is for. So there's just, it's so old, all that Old Testament stuff. And then the Jesus stuff, like the thing that I like the most is you have these apostles after Jesus. Jesus dies, is resurrected. You have like Paul, who is very, he was prosecuting the Christians and he was a very, very Jewish dude, right? And very kind of like legalistic is one way of putting it, just by the book and really specific. And so the way that he in the New Testament talks about what Jesus means and how we should now live is different than John, who wrote the Gospel of John and the book of Revelation and he has some epistles as well, which are like the letters in the New Testament. John starts out his gospel as, in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. This very like, it's kind of cosmic. It's really metaphysical or mystic in nature. Every other gospel starts as like, well, this guy had this son and this son and this son and this son, and proving the lineage of Jesus, basically in a very Jewish sort of context, kind of like lawyer oriented. This is why this guy has authority. This is the first part, the most important part about this. Once I started to see the different flavors of the minds, the personalities who are writing in the New Testament, you just start to see the I don't know, the culture of it, the textures of it. It's different. Whereas most of the churches I ever went to, it's like some hip pastors holding up a Bible saying, that's not my word. That's God's word. God said it. That settles it. There's this draw towards fundamentalism with the words because it makes it really clear, right? And all of the Christian thinkers that I found myself drawn to were way more, they were just much less black and white. There's something at the core of Jesus and at the culture that grew around Jesus that just, it felt less, this is how you live. It felt less, if A, then B, so C. It felt less formulaic. So they call it deconstructing your faith when you kind of come from a real structured form of a religion and you kind of get out of it. There's this whole process of deconstruction that's become like a massive trend in the evangelical world, deconstructing your faith. And it's so I went through my own version of that. And now what I always say is Jesus and I are seeing other people, or we have an open relationship,
Yeah.
which is very true. I had one, I was around this one Taoist mysticism teacher for a little bit. And he's teaching all these like weird, cool, ancient Taoist mystic things. But with his students who are getting more advanced, he's like, listen, if you're ever in something that's too hairy, it's too heavy duty, you just call on the name of Jesus. And it felt good to hear that from like a totally different tradition. And it also like, I realized I have that faith there, like this sense of that's where I kind of grew through those I don't know, from high school on through after college and like starting the family and stuff. There was just this grace, like, hey, God is for you. The gospel is summarized as like God's for you. Like he's into this. I always think of God as like I don't know. What do you think? What do you want to do? What are you into? Right. Jesse Elder, buddy of ours, was just on a podcast and he talked about this when God had the idea that, I'll let creation create itself. It was such an orgasmic idea to God that it created a big bang. And we've been dealing with it ever since. I love that idea. Yeah. Right? I really do. There's just something in the idea, and I'm using the word God that might be triggering for lots of people, but source or whatever. There's something in God to me that's like, what are you into? What's your deal? Like a good father, what's your deal? That maybe because of the kinds of churches I was in, I just, when my faith deconstructed, what I had built was this like old stone castle on like some hill in Ireland. And so when that crumbles, you can still kind of go through it and grab the like silverware and some stuff might have survived, right? My former partner, she came from way more structured and brittle kind of the cathedral that her faith was created as almost like a glass cathedral. So when that shatters, you just have like all this painful shit to walk to get out of the wreckage. It's just cutting. Mine was just really organic for some reason. It still is. And there's definitely something in the idea of having a scaffolding or a structure to what I think about things that I miss in some ways, because for 15 plus years it's just been off in the wilderness figuring things out, seeing what I think about stuff. And it's interesting how much it comes back to some of the core things from Christianity, and how much also I never one of the things from like the plant medicine world or new agey kind of stuff is like, hey, there's no light without shadow. That's such a simple concept, such a simple, dumb idea. Yeah. But when you're really deep in it, there's something in being able to accept the darkness that feels very transformational. Not as because in the Christianity, it's so easy to go like, oh, that's bad. Like get solid and jump away from that. Get away from that kind of thing, which does feel, what I feel like I've learned about how to be better in relationships is like, I actually have to own my shadow more. That makes me better at that kind of shit. I don't know.
Well, with that in mind, I wanted to actually chat a bit about the work that you did with David Sutcliffe recently. And you kind of had this is a men's retreat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to imagine there was some shadow work done and getting in touch with that in a really visceral way. From what, kind of you had shared with me.
Yeah. And playful. Like okay. So imagine this. It was one of the things I loved. I knew this was going to be great going into this with David, is that it's just approachable and it's not going to be this really heavy duty, like, hey man, here's how you got to do this. It's really, you're kind of gently drawn into it. Imagine you're in a room with 12 other guys and you have some tools there, like a big block that you can hit when you feel like, I love this idea that anger is so easy to move. If you can find something you can be a little bit angry about, you go hit something with that and you just scream it over and over, see what that turns into. It's always something underneath that, and so but it just the physical act of moving and hitting and screaming. That's why my voice is hoarse still from like 2 weekends ago.
Yeah.
I'm still, because there was one moment where my cousin, he's this guy who had this, he used to be like a brawler, used to be able to be really violent. He would seek out fights, or he was telling us about parts of his life like that. And he completely married my cousin and got to be with her. He wanted to change all of that. But that guy's still in there. Right. So it was this, okay, cool. What if we pulled that guy out a little bit and it was safe to do that? It's not this winning strategy to just suppress. It's going to come out sideways.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Is what that's what I think happens. And so at one point, okay, you guys get on his arms, you hold him back here. And your job is I'm standing in front of him. Your job is to get to me. and fuck me up.
Wow.
And I'm just sitting there holding eye contact and I just find myself screaming. And as I was screaming, I was just screaming, yes, yes, yes. And I'm like, I could have come up with something more aggressive to say, but like, that's where part of where I lost my voice. Also, I'll share this. This is fucking embarrassing. Very first get together after we did these interesting sort of like warm up exercises. You're just walking around the room with other guys, like not touching, not talking, just like walking. And then he has us do it again. And he's like, now everybody in here's a threat. And you're just like looking and you're like going like, this is a threat to everyone. Like just some like owning that little bit of that energy, just playing with that energy of like, I'm going to protect myself. Fuck this. Like, I don't need to take any of this shit. Do some exercises. And then at one point where it's like, he pulls out the block and he's like, all right, so does anybody feel like there's something you could try to work with? The game here is don't hold back. And I had, like, before we even started saying, I felt like we were going to head in this direction. I had this thing come into my mind and I was like, no, like, no, we're not going to do that. That's dumb. I don't want to do that. It's not true. Like, I just noticed that conversation going on. The no was like, this is what you got to fucking do, dude. You got to, and it was, I hate my wife and kids. This is gnarly to say out loud, to just own in front of a group of guys, to like throw it down as like a game, like let's play with it. It's there. It's like, I don't know if I feel it, but it came to mind and then I didn't want to share it. Uh-huh. So I'm like, that's how I'm starting this off. That's how I'm going to start this off. For me to go like, let's pop this open and see what happens. And it takes it. You know, I was a part of like bringing this group together. Half the guys in there were in my men's group, and Dave, it was my conversations with Dave that like kind of prompted him to do this. So I felt a little bit of ownership. This was like the amount of ownership that I had. Is like, okay, you don't want to do this thing, you're going to do it anyway because that's the game. Is don't hold back. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I started hitting with that, and it was more the like courage and the fucking risk of just doing it. And I like, you know, I would hit with like, I'm actually a great fucking dad. I'm a great fucking dad. And Dave was like, who are you trying to convince? Like, he would fuck with me in the best ways. There was another part where this other guy was hitting I won't share his story, but it was like super fucking moving. And eventually it got to this point where he's like, where were you? I was all alone. Where were you? And he's kicking. And this is where he's starting to break down. And I'm holding the block next to him. And I'm like, the whole time he's doing this, my body's like sobbing. I'm not crying. I don't have tears, but like my body's like kind of, this happens to me. Like, it's like crying without tears. For some reason, that's some psychotherapist could tell me what that's about. But we get so practiced at this in that group is like, all right, what's this feeling? What am I feeling right now? That inquiry, I call it the inquiry. My old mentor called it the inquiry. It's like just to be honestly curious with yourself. Like, what am I feeling here? And the first thought that came in was, I miss my dad. And I was like, no, I don't want, that's not true. There's like, it was again, more of that conversation about this thing. And then I like stopped that conversation and I looked at the feeling again. And I said, I miss my dad. And the feeling kind of bubbled up more and more. I just felt myself in such this like tender space. One of the massive graces of a room like that is like watching someone else's shit brings up shit in you. You have so much more access than you can get, whether you're watching TV or having a deep heart to heart with your lady or whatever. Just watching this, it just does stuff to you. It's the best Netflix show ever. Mm. So after this guy was done sharing and talking and we were kind of breaking it down. And I brought that up that like, yeah, I had this, I was really affected by it. I asked myself how I was feeling. It was like, I miss my dad. And Dave was like, do you want to work with that? And I was immediately like, I don't want, I think just sharing it was probably enough.
He's not going to let you off the hook.
You know, he's like, but I'm like willing to try. He's like, all right, you really willing to try it? So he laid out this mattress, and this is dumb. This is so fucking dumb. I hate this. I hate everything about this. Yes. He laid out this mattress, and he's like, "Okay, lie down." He had me like raise my arms up like a baby. And he was like, just call out for dad. Let's just see what happens. Just call out for your dad. Just don't hold back. Go for it. And call out for your dad. I'm like, fucking hate this.
Feels so corny. You're
So
like, you're working
corny.
it out in your mind. How is this like?
And all like what we've seen again and again in that room, we were already trained in, is just like all that conversation about whether it's corny or is like, you just got to step into it and be with the feeling of it. So I did. And it started off sort of slow, and then it got bigger and more. And I was screaming and yelling, calling out for dad. There was definitely some energy moving. There's definitely like a witness in my consciousness going like, what are we doing here, dude? Like, what's this? And I was like, shush. And then it kind of like petered out. And my eyes were closed, and Dave kind of like leaned over at me. He's like, open your eyes and look around. And I looked around, and everybody in that room was weeping. Everybody had that same fucking thing. And for me, the language of I miss my dad was so nothing I would have put in words before. It's like maybe it wasn't cool, or maybe it's just not how I see myself. It's just like a version of myself that I had constructed that like that doesn't fit in, probably made that version of me because that was such an uncomfortable feeling. I felt weak, or it felt for whatever reason. And to get into a space like that where you've built enough rapport and played the game enough to actually fuck with it, try it, it was really like, it definitely felt like that opened up more space in me. It felt really good to be held by all the guys there and watched, like, just see their response to it, it was courageous and risky to step into it and just try it and be fucking cheesy a bit, but it's like exactly why guys don't want to go to this thing. It's like, it's going to make me fucking hit a thing. He's going to make me lie down and call out for my dad. And that's bullshit, But what's interesting is afterwards, there's been more spaciousness. There's just like more, I could notice a different texture. I like that word texture, like it shows up in like a lot of somatic work. And when we're talking about like how something feels or whatever, I don't even know what I necessarily mean by it, but I remember myself being like, this is kind of different. Feels like there's a little more spaciousness for me. And I just spent 4 days with my dad playing golf in a tournament, and it was wild. It was wild. Like at one point I'm sitting next to him, and I'm like with my dad. I'm for him. I love him. He's great. And he's got his own life shit going on. But I'm sitting next to him in the golf cart, and I'm like, what's this feeling? What's this feeling I have? And it's like, I feel unsafe. I feel like I'm in his world, and like there's all this demand and expectation, and I'm a letdown and a disappointment. And it was, again, so I think I was able to inquire into that because of this thing here, and have some feeling for my young self, who was like, for sure grew up in that feeling, like was completely shaped by that. Right. This is so common. This like, when I was chatting with some buddies about like spending time with my dad and mom, and being back where my brother passed away last year, and just being in the house that we were raised in, and he's not there, and just feeling so much shit come up. And when friend Adam Baker was like, here's a game or an exercise that we've done. You could try this out. Identify what you wanted from your dad, but you didn't get. Identify what you wanted from your dad and you didn't get, and then give it to him without any strings attached. Super interesting, like total dojo workout, gym reps kind of thing, And what I identified was like, I wanted you to be curious about me and not put all of this structure of expectation and demand and who I was supposed to be on me. His job is to prepare me for life. So he's like, that's the gig. But I wanted you to be curious about me because I was different. I was not like that. I was not like my brother. I was not like you. I was a different thing. And I have a lot of grace that they didn't know what to do with me. But at the same time, just identifying that would have been really cool. And then giving that to him when he's doing his thing that I'm like fucking annoyed by, or I feel is unattractive, or is braggadocious or whatever. I'm like, yeah, this is like, that's my expectation of him being disappointed. I'm doing the same fucking thing.
So were you able to kind of work with that over the past 4 days?
Yeah, I would like just having that thought was enough to like, it's like this picture of like, I'm just kind of like, I'm holding around him and letting him do whatever dance he wants to do in it. And just like, I'm just staying close. I'm not ejecting out.
Yes.
I'd lost some capacity by the end of it because there was just so much. I was swimming in so much, but it was helpful just to give me a little bit more capacity. Like it gave me a little bit of of like, here's what we're doing here. Like, oh, this is great. And without making him just a project, I don't like when someone makes me a project. I want to feel they're like, I don't know. I want them to be themselves with me too,
Where are you with your dad in this is kind of looking at through the context of my own relationship, but with kind of sharing these things kind of more explicitly with him versus just being in the practice of your own piece.
Did not like presence it like language wise oriented. That felt so, I didn't know how to do that. In fact, there was a time at the end last night when he was sharing some stuff that was really deep, for him. And we were doing this thing where we're just kind of like watching the TV and like paused it. And he's like talking and we're like not really looking at each other, but just sort of like feeling each other. And I don't think I gave him quite as much as I wish I would have in that moment. But it felt good to feel him, because it's the kind of thing that someone my dad's age, 69 now, it's a lot for him to reach in and just kind of grab something to share like that. It's a ton. And I kind of want to just let it like wash over me. We don't have a lot of experience with like, but at the same time so my brother passed away. It was just Chris and I. And so dad lost his second son, who was a total stud and everybody's favorite. I remember when my mom called me one night, 'cause she knew I was going into this like ketamine assisted therapy on the anniversary of his passing. And she called me and she was like, well, honey, you were this tough little guy. And then Chris came along and got all the love from everybody. Have a good trip. She was out drinking white wine, smoking cigs in Tahoe, just like, well, this is how it was. Wow. Which I love. And it's actually not how I've seen myself at all. That's come up since Chris's passing. It's like, oh, fuck. A lot of me was shaped by by basically making a blindness to that.
You mean by the attention he was getting versus what you were?
Yeah. Like how naturally people just were drawn to him. And so I was over here like, all right, well, I'm going to fucking learn how to make music, bitch. I'm going to like, it was always very private. And I think a lot of like in my own world, sort of creative.
It's just so interesting because I've gotten to know you pretty intimately over the last handful of years, and it's just not how you show up in the group as, I don't know how to articulate it. You have a great presence in the group, and like such an important cog in the way the whole thing works. Showered with affection and love. People are really drawn to you. And so I wonder, is that like an adaptation from I'm not a fucking psychologist or anything, but I'm just curious because I understand what you're saying, and I met Chris, and I see how you two are different, and I could understand as a parent or whoever, like why things happen the way they do,
totally,
but just how how you've been, in the group of friends. It is a bit odd to
Yeah.
think that you were kind of, yeah, treated that much differently.
Yeah.
Am
I
I making sense?
You are. Yeah. Well, I mean, what I'm hearing you say is that's interesting because I don't see you as that, as this private, alone, creative, like sheltered, walled up, protected. And at some point, I think once I started making friends outside of the family situation, that's like my whole world was outside the family. The moment I could leave, I was gone,
Yeah.
you know? And so I just created my own, I just did my own thing. I lived my own life. And out there, I wasn't compared to a brother or a father or anything like that, you know? And I created, and I built a personality, an ego, a way of doing things that, I have like a tremendous, like, I like learning about people. I like creating. I like learning about people. I think I have a lot of that sadness that comes out in the songs. It, it, maybe it gives me some, like a deeper empathy for people or something. It's like a sense of, I don't know how many of us get met in our sadness, and, and something about meeting someone in their sadness, you can go anywhere with them. You kind of, but I love hearing you say that, I don't show up in the group as a little fucking kid.
Yeah, not at all. When I'm interested, because there's a lot of dynamics going on. I mean, you're with your dad on Father's Day. Your dad has, obviously mom and you have he's lost one of his sons.
Yeah.
You're not home with your kids.
Yeah.
And, how did that all feel on Sunday?
Yeah. It was, so like being back home, I wasn't prepared for this. I thought I was like, I've done this golf tournament with dad before. I've been back there since Chris has passed. This time was different. Like the moment I walked in, I was like, ugh, like it was going to be heavy lifting. It's like a lot of unspoken grief. Grief, when you lose someone, you want to share and talk about it. But at a certain point, it's like, can we not?
Yeah.
Can we not now? Can we like just allow that to be there? And we're still trying to figure out how to do that. I'm so proud of my parents for the kind of, you lose a parent when they're 80 or 90 or something. There's something about that makes sense. You lose a kid at 40 and it's like, what's the fucking, like, I lost a baby. My oldest son's 14, my youngest daughter's 7. And right in between we had Rowan. And so, not 15, but like 10 years ago, my wife and I experienced this like tremendous loss at full term stillbirth labor. And I'm the one calling all my friends, telling them what happened. And like, they're feeling them try to orient towards this. And I'm almost like halfway coaching them and how to be towards us, because I feel for them. Like, what do you even do during, like, how do we even do this? That was such a deep dive PhD in grief and in unfairness and in, just loss. There's loss. I mean, it was, we ended up having a natural labor with him and spent a lot of time with his body. And it was like, this is the son that I never met, that I lost. So in some ways there's a grace there. And in other ways, it's like even more of like a schism in the head. Losing my brother, who's just such a stud, and we did a celebration of life for him. There's 500 people there. This thing was like a fucking reunion for like high school and college and the doctors that he worked with and stuff. So well loved, and at the same time, had his own had his own addictions or misgivings with life, right? Like the addict in me could see the addict in him, and And the final death report on that was like a mix of kratom and clonazepam or whatever, one of those, basically a benzo and an opioid.
Yep.
That if you mix those, it's like this, and it was an accident, you know? So this just fucking tragedy. Watching my mom, like she put together last night these for Father's Day dinner, there's like some turkey and some baked potatoes, and there's like 4 baked potatoes, you know? There's only 3 of us. It's like just that kind of thing where you're like, fuck, dude. Yeah, I don't know if she was thinking about that at all, but that's what I thought of. And what my dad was saying to me last night, he's like, you're all we have now. You're all we have. You know, and it just, how
does that feel?
I mean,
it feels, when you said that, it felt weighty to me.
Yeah. There's, you know, I don't feel like I'm running around making fucking YouTube videos. You know, I'm into men's work a lot now because it feels like deep and real, but I can't see a way to pay for shit doing that. You know, I feel like I was supposed to, you know, create an Exxon Mobil or some massive corporation or something. And like, I'm over here making rap songs about bags for dads, dude. Do you know what I mean? That I think are really good.
Yes.
So it's like, we're working with something totally different. When he says that, I think the way I orient towards it is like, dude, I'm doing my own thing. I'm good. I know what I'm up to. I'm a great dad. Who are you trying to convince? I'm a great dad. I've got connection with my kids. My kids weren't with me because they were in Europe with their mom.
That's right.
Going to the places where mom and I met, right? At one point, my ex-wife sends me a picture of my son and daughter in the gazebo in this park in Dublin, Ireland. That is where I proposed to her. And she's like, they just like found it and sat there. And she said, I realized like when I was saying yes to you, I was really saying yes to them. Right? It was so beautiful. Love that. You know, what do you respond to that? I like hearted it. Like, I don't even know how to respond to that. But to the dad saying you're all I have, I actually have a tremendous amount of, like, I'm solid. Like, I'm fucking strong and solid. This is something that Boyd told me is like, I felt good hearing it from him. You just will take shit. You'll just take it. You're just strong. You can take it. And a lot of the last couple years of life has been like learning that I don't have to just take it. Like I thought it was a value and an honorable thing to just be super strong and just take it all. Now it's like, I want to understand what my own preferences are. I want to be okay with them. And it actually feels like shameful partly because what dad's expectations of me were like, you know, be the developer guy playing golf, stick around, and you know, whatever his expectations were. They've been super gracious with me. They're like, I stopped doing sports because there was too much pressure. Dad was just barking on the sidelines.
That's hard.
You know? And so I was like, fuck that. And I started doing music. And he was like, here's a guitar. And he just like was always so supportive of me. He'd come home from work. I'd be like jamming super loud in the garage with this huge amp, this half stack amp. I was in all these metal and hardcore bands in the Bay Area. And I would turn around and I realized he'd just been sitting there like listening and watching.
No shit.
You know? Yeah. Like tons of love and support. So like, and yet still that young child just feeling like the demand, the pressure to succeed. And like, and I think that's all squeezed out sideways. Now I have this, like, I put pressure on myself to try to be cool instead of to succeed. And I'm like, so sick of that. I'm just like, so much more interested in what other people think of me than what I think by nature somehow. And that doesn't feel like a winning strategy at all. That feels so fucking lame. You know, it's like the lamest thing.
We talked about it a little bit. I think it was last week or something. Just like some of these stories we have and some things whatever it is, where we want to go, whatever. And then when we deconstruct those things, it's like, I'm just looking for external validation.
I'm just looking for validation.
Yeah.
I'm like so insecure, right? And that's okay. The only way through this is like, first of all, that's okay. And then what? I don't know. I'm still working on that. It's like just trying to orient towards my preference. One of the things that Sutcliffe taught me was, okay, find your truth, like speak your truth, say the thing that's true for you. Number one. Number two, let the other person have their reaction. Let them have it. Right. And then number three, hold yourself as good. Don't cut yourself off at the knees. Don't make yourself bad. Don't like go like, oh, the reaction was intense and this, that, and the other. So it's like, it's my fault. Oh, you're right. I am a fucking retard. Whatever it is, right? Yeah. It's like, tell your truth. Let them have their reaction, and hold yourself as good. And my question to him was like, I'm already doing the algebra on what the reaction's going to be before I've even identified my truth. I'm confused about what's true for me. Yeah, that's where I am right now. It's like, what's true for me? What do I want? What do I prefer? Wow. You know?
Yeah, I get stuck on that whole process too, especially the third one. Like, I didn't get the reaction I was expecting, and now I'm like all fucked up.
Yeah, and it is like a superhero power for a lot of guys, probably for a lot of women as well. But for a lot of guys, we make ourselves bad. It just seems to be in the water. We make ourselves bad. Like, oh, it's my fault. And with the difference between shame and guilt is shame is like you are fundamentally bad, evil, wrong, broken, right? And that's why this shit keeps happening to you. And I super struggle with that. You know, I think part of the reason why I ended up choosing Christianity in the first place was like, I already was oriented that way. It's like, okay, well now I can be good by this. Great. Gives me some confidence, gives me like learn how to, but the deeper sort of levels I seek are like, I want to be able to hold myself as good, even if my preference and opinion feels like something that is hurtful or I'm not supposed to, or it's taboo. Or it's like, I still want to be able to own that. I don't have to presence it. I don't have to like make this happen. I don't have to, but I can look at that at the young psyche that feels this, and I can be with that. That feels like the way forward. That feels like growth. You know, what Terry Real calls like this wise adult inside of me. I'm the wise adult loving these parts of me that are like juvenile or coming out sideways or turn a bit upside down or something.
I feel like I've been in that a little bit more lately than I have been. I've been like feeling that, you know, just it's not that it's not grounded, but just like unsure, just really unsure.
Yeah.
And then it's like, then you kind of hesitate. There's just uncertainty and without clarity, and then just questioning everything, especially when you get the feedback that you're looking for anyway. So you're going to see the shitty feedback because you're calling it in.
Yeah. Yeah, you are. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And uncertainty is just naturally difficult to be in. It doesn't feel good. We seek a savior, a Donald Trump. I remember one time I was like a little bit stoned by myself, looking at the stars, and I took a hit of tobacco. It was just like one of my favorite things. One of the places where I feel I may be bad, wrong, or broken because like this relationship, like I'm too much in this like I lose myself in this relationship with tobacco in some ways. But I remember this drop from a big hit of tobacco, and like I had this vision of this was several years back, of this whole Donald Trump thing, and realizing like, oh my God, it would feel so good to just go like, we found who's going to fix it. And this is how it's good. That whole Q thing is so fundamentalist, religious, like the shape of it provides so much clarity and there's so much comfort and clarity. And the truth is, most of my life has lived in uncertainty. The best parenting advice I ever got was, remember those Mac laptops that have like the mag power thing that is like, you plug it in and there's a little green light that turns on it. this therapist was like, that's connection. When you get home from work, get the green light on with your kid. That's it. That's what you're optimizing for. That's what the relationship is. That's what will grow and develop over time. If you have that intact, you're doing fine. There's something about that was so simplifying, as opposed to like, what should my contact, how should I think about social media and screen time? Like, what about, like all of these real specifics of parenting stuff that play a huge role. This was the core, just connection. And now my oldest is 15. You've got older kids than that, but that feels like a little bit of an important trick to me, to feel emotional connection, just a sense of like, when I'm quiet, like I love it. I love it when my son calls. He did it yesterday, and we're just chatting. He's in Amsterdam, and I'm just kind of quiet, and he starts filling the space. He starts sharing more. Yeah. Like this was the museum was okay. It was kind of dumb, but you're just getting this like, all right, yes, I love this. I don't know how to like. I'm always trying to like orient towards the same with my dad. Just like trying to get. Like, how do I do this well? Like, well, what's the question I could ask? I did this with a lady friend recently. I tried to ask a question that might like be interesting for her, and she's hated it. It's like, I don't know necessarily how to like zhuzh it up, but it's like, I can be quiet and let it. And like, all right, it's coming to me. Yeah. I like that. That's not something I knew how to do back in the day. But also that pause in the conversation, that's uncertainty. It's discomfort. I just think so much of life is lived in discomfort, and so much of the spiritual teachings, even the best of the best, they can't help but foster a desire for certainty in me, or like the opposite of uncertainty, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, I am, a son of God. I am right where I'm supposed to be. I am, and to claim like I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I'm exactly who I need to be. Like, this is all great. In the midst of the uncertainty is probably the bigger judo, right? It's probably the bigger place to live from, as opposed to like, wow, I don't know. Another thing that's about me is like, I should have so many more fucking subscribers on YouTube. I should have so many more views on that dad bag video. I just have always wanted to be discovered, looking for that outside validation again. Right. So I'm just for years just living in that uncertainty of like, oh, I guess we'll just keep going. I guess we'll just keep going because I've got a skill, I've got a talent, I'm making ends meet. We just kind of keep going. And I think it'd be nice to, for you when you're talking about being in an uncertainty, to just see what's going well, to see what you're grateful for. I was doing that on the plane today, coming in, like I'm in this like real just crazy time with dad and like conversations with a friend. And it's just like, I just started going through all of, like making a list of what I'm glad about, what I'm actually grateful for. This saved my life. Gratitude saved my life. The research on personal growth, like the most well-researched thing is, besides exercise, is gratitude journaling. Like if you do a little journal by the bedside table before you go to bed, and you're just like, 3 things you're honestly grateful for. And it's not the things you're supposed to be grateful for. You're actually looking for something that is, you feel like, I remember the first time I did this, I had just watched this movie called Don't Think Twice, from this comedian named Mike Birbiglia. And I was just like, honestly glad that movie got made. Oh, really? So I was just like, oh, I'm glad that movie got made. It's such a dumb sort of, I'm glad, I'm like so grateful for my wife and my kids. So grateful for these lungs that can breathe. I'm so grateful for these feet that can walk, whatever. Like, and it's like, no, I'm glad that movie got made. Like, again, to the looking at the feeling and seeing what's, and trying to come up with some words for it, as opposed to top-down structuring ourselves towards something. I don't know why I bring up the gratitude journal, except for like the being in the uncertainty of stuff, because you're a guy that has like tons of potential and opportunity. And if I was in your shoes, I'd be like, what should I have done by now? Or what am I like, what do I want to have been like, what's the body of work I want to have in 5 years? I could, you and I are similar in that we could be really hard on ourselves. Yeah. And we're not alone in that. We know that. So this may be a fault of mine. I may tend to be more in the like, be in the uncertainty, see what waves come, be ready on the board and like sort of stretched and worked out to like grab the wave when it comes by. There's a little bit of a dance with the universe like that I like. I want a dance partner. I really want a dance partner. I get way less interested in like writing all the vision out and doing the thing and then I fucking did it. It's like, no, I know I can do it. I'm actually not concerned about that. I want there to be fucking magic there. I want to be surprised. I want God to be like, you're incredible, you know? And like, I love dancing with you. That's that co-creation side of things is, and there's a lot of uncertainty in that.
I think I hear you. And yeah, I've had those thoughts and continue to have those thoughts. Like, what do I want to create? What am I really here to do? What's the legacy piece look like? We kind of all the iterations of that. And, you know, for a long time resisted having some structure around that and just wanting the magic to appear, wanting to be discovered as the, you know, podcast host and whatever. When I started to create some structure around that, and put some concrete goals down, things that were measurable. And it's like just, you know, Boyd loves to say it, enough structure to leave structure. I think when you know, kind of put that architecture around it, the magic does happen. It can happen. But it's when it's too like spread out buckshot, like not sure where we're going. Because you tend to not be able to, well, I'll speak for myself, you tend to not know which is the track to follow because there's many that are, you know, seemingly interesting. But if I don't have a true direction of what I'm moving towards, then it becomes, I think you can kind of lose sight of, it's just all, not necessarily novelty, but there's all these different things going on. There's there needs to be some anchoring.
I mean, that has been my professional struggle.
So I think just adding some sort of structure, whatever looks good for you.
Like Tuesday night is like butt plug night. Like
exactly.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. But I get inspired at the idea of like, of what is the kind of structure that I would want, that I would be excited to have. Right. And I also can get just so far off in left field of like, because another thing is the work that I do, like I can write the 3 videos I need to make. The truth is I need to only write one of those because I'm about to go into a portal of doing that. And at a certain point, I need to get the fuck out of there and I'm not going to have any capacity for, and these videos, they take time to do. So there's something in the nature of my work that is so, I can have this whole dashboard full of shit, but the truth is I'm grabbing one thing, I'm pushing it all aside and going right in on that. And when I have that, like it's go, 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 go. And then when I'm out of that, when it's like time to fucking relax from that, I don't want to organize the Trello board or the sticky notes and see what's next. It just feels like, who the fuck am I working for? Who am I working for? You know,
what I'm suggesting is get beyond the 3 videos, look beyond that. Because otherwise you're going to be continuing to make the 3 videos or choosing the 3 and then maybe finally just settling on one. So that's safe. But like, what's beyond that? What's a year, 5 years beyond that? And then the creativity and the visioning starts coming in as you're still doing that work. But you're kind of future casting what that would look like. And there's many different ways to do it, but just like really feeling into like, what am I here to do? And just starting with something. And then, you know, my process was to start with the 25-year goals and then work with 1-year goals that were supportive of those
in
things.
that direction.
And they're measurable. And, you know, when I'm aligned with those things, my life becomes pretty simple in the fact that it is pretty binary. Am I getting closer to these goals or am I getting further away with this decision? And the goals can shift and change and be tweaked, but like just starting with something And it's something that I've, kind of unfortunately I've gotten a little bit away from. And so just like
Is that where like
represencing this is like good for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now. Is like you mentioned the uncertainty and like, is it just because you just haven't revisited those goals and directions?
Yeah, I got be kind of disconnected from it.
Yeah, and I think the courage to change them up over time is something that I can give. I can give myself the free way to like you can change them if you want.
Yeah, and try to be real clear about what they are. And, I would say try not to make sweeping changes so you're kind of starting all over, but like just get more and more clear.
Yeah, I like that.
Because you know the direction that you're called to.
Yeah, in some ways. And like the men's work stuff that like that came out of not came out of nowhere, but now it's like this is my hobby. This is my passion. Not necessarily being there, but just going like, dude, if I could get 100 men's groups to start up and they met for 1 year, that is a lot of dudes who are going to be operating very differently in their lives, as opposed to like having a course or coming to a retreat or taking ayahuasca or like whatever, sitting with ayahuasca, like doing. There's just something about you get it. I'm in 2 groups. I'm in your group here, which is basically like a tight hang. And I love being one of the first ones here because whoever comes in, we'll make a bag and then like that ends up being, I'm typically the first one here. Yes. And that ends up being like the kind of some of the setting of the like the tone for the first sort of chunk of the night. Cause we just end up finding something kind of.
Explain to people what a bag are, just for those who.
The bag is tobacco and teas, smoking teas that are vaporized at a temperature that it makes it as light of a negative impact on your body as possible. And it's my favorite social lubricant. It's just my favorite social, but at the same time, it looks dumb. Looks so dumb. I'll never forget your 50th better than Ezra going like, you guys don't look cool with those bags.
Use those condoms. Yeah.
Yeah. But, and then the other group that I'm a part of is just kind of like a standard low key organic. We get together at 7:00 every 3 weeks. We sit in a fucking circle. It's like, we got 6 guys here. That's 12 minutes each. Who wants to go first? Go. And it's like, here's what I'm dealing with. Here's what's going on. Here's something that happened. And we're asking questions and firing away. Now we've been doing that for about 2 years. There is so much. It is just so, it's so organic. And these guys have carried me through separating from my wife. I've watched some of them meet their partner and then others like have their first baby or thought they were, and then like realize I'm ready to be a dad. And then there was a miscarriage early on. And so it was kind of like this, whoa, cool. Like we figured we're like just holding each other through so much shit. And the truth is like, there's a lot of guys that I wouldn't want to be in that group with, there's a lot of groups that I would be like, I don't know, I'm not that excited to go to. And so the difference between making it someplace that like you feel like, yeah, I'm excited to go to this, and a place that you're like, for the first year, it's like, but over time, the value can be is just so much that I'm seeing this, research digested for me in Instagram videos on like men need 2 nights a week to like hang out with in a place with like no demands or requirements and just like hang with other dudes. Right. I don't know where that research is coming from. I'm in support of it.
Yes.
But why am I in support of it is because like every one of these guys at this group, at the other group, myself, all of us, we have fucking lives that we're carrying. We have real lives that we're carrying. People that we like, our children, our wives, our like our parents, ourselves, real lives that we're carrying. And there's just this. Anyways, all this to the point of I really don't think I've even started doing what I'm going to do yet. I think the media will always play a role. The songs and the creative work will always be some kind of role. But the thing I'm most proud of is the presence that I've cultivated. The ability to be hanging with, high level celebrities or just fucking low level fucking plumbers and just be like, oh, that's fucking interesting, man. I'm curious about that. But like in it with them. I think that is what I wanted. That's what I wanted in my life growing up or something. And so cultivating that presence, personality or presence or whatever feels, and I don't always nail it, but the older I get, the better I keep getting. And that feels cool, as opposed to being one of these young bucks who's like, I don't get to play soccer anymore the same way, but I was great.
Yeah.
I was fucking great. You know, I don't know.
I'm curious, you know, over the past year, you've separated from your wife, and role of dad obviously changes just, you know, structurally, but I'm curious to know what it's been like to be a dad now.
Yeah.
When you're not, you know, sharing responsibilities with a partner, and how that looked, and what it means today for you.
The best thing is when I'm in dad mode, I'm 100% in dad mode. That structure feels good. I noticed this before we separated. Like, I loved when it was just me with the kids. Like, the roles were so clear, and there was something that felt alive to me about that. It was more challenging because of where the relationship with my wife was at the time. So when I'm with the kids, I'm really with the kids. When I'm not with the kids, there is like this nagging guilt. And I've made some progress on that, but like my 14-year-old and I are closer than ever. Like he calls me to talk about girl shit, you know, before he even talks to mom. And I'm always encouraging him, like, hey, just talk to mom about this. She has great advice too.
Yeah.
You know, my 7-year-old daughter, I'm more worried about. Like I'm terrified that she thinks like dad doesn't love me anymore. I love being with her. She loves being with me. It's like, and she really loves being at my place. And there's still just a little bit of like a fuck, man, this is young. How's she doing? We've been paying a really close attention. She's doing good. It's been over a year. She's like doing great. Who am I trying to convince? But the other thing is going out of dad mode it's been on one hand like really great to just go to have clarity and space in my own life, in my own space. Every house I've bought has been with my ex, and it's been her place. Like the only places that are mine, like I hide and isolate and make my little place where I like can make my business and creative work and stuff. Now it's like, this is all mine. That's a very new experience for me. That has been really restorative. It feels really healing and good. Like I feel guilty about it. Like I don't deserve this. I shouldn't have this. And just working through that, but also just having that space. But the second thing is flipping in and out of dad mode can be really hard. Like you'll be like 10 days about is what we tend to do now, 9-10 days. And then I'll be 4 or 5 days on. And then there's like vacations and stuff where it's longer. 10 days is a long fucking time, dude. And we're like FaceTiming and calling, and like sometimes there's at least one day I pick the kids up from school in between there and hang with them to give Melissa more time to work. And some days I'll come over and just put Etney down to sleep and do bedtime with her. It's a mix. It's as mixed as it was when the family was one unit, except for there's not as much fucking tension in the scene. You know, I'm not this, like, to me, to feel this autonomy that I have now, and it's still just growing. It's not like 100% yet, because there is that guilt, and it's like I don't know, I failed. My marriage failed, you know? Yeah. But there's a growing sense of like, I like being here. Like I get to do what I want. Like I get to be a dad. I get to like do my business. I get to date. I get to like have my friends. Like there's lots of stuff I get to do, you know? That just wasn't how I was seeing my world before. It was like, I have to. Oh, I should. It was like living a lot in that. And so, I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit on something that's certainly common for the dads I know in my life, where when everyone's under the same roof, there just becomes like some question about like where they fit into the role of who's doing what. And honestly, moms may feel the same way, where there's like, I'm expecting something, she's expecting something. But when they're alone with the kids, mom's away for the weekend or whatever, things just work really well. And so again, I don't know, maybe women feel the same way. I've just never really.
There's something to this whole like masculine feminine dynamic. I've been like trying to learn a lot about that, and I don't know where I really fucking stand on it, you know? Where it's like the one shorthand is masculine is the master of time and space. I'll be here from this time to this time, like this kind of structure that comes with just like, all right, we're going to this place, we're there by this time, like owning that and being responsible for, and like that's one way that we hold this container and make shit happen. It's a good look shorthand for it. And for me, I was working from home. The kids were home. The wife was home. Like there was no master of time and space. It was like, I should be getting more done over here. I should be a better dad. I should be a better lover. Like it was just constant. Like,
and you didn't have a separation of church and state where you were away working. You're working in
the house.
And that's been my challenge too at times. Working at home.
Which has been the case for me since our son was born. So he'd be 2 or 3 years old, like knocking on the door of the studio, just like, why can't dad play? You know, like that was more psychological strain than it needed to be. I should have fucking gotten the hell out of there. But it's nice to save that money and not have to pay for a studio somewhere else.
Yes.
You know? I like that. So there is that fuzziness is how life is lived. You got like, it's not going to be clean. It's not going to be clean. So get rid of that idea. And then also like, get the fuck out of there from this time to this time on Tuesday. Or like, I'm doing dinner on Thursday night. You know, you don't get to cook dinner. I'm doing dinner. Like owning, there's just stuff like that. I didn't do enough of. I didn't have a sense of, I didn't have a fight for that. I didn't have a knowledge of that being a way to kind of do stuff, you know? Yeah. I want people's relationships to fucking thrive so bad. I want to have a relationship that thrives, right? I lived it for so long where we love and care about, I care about my ex-wife so fucking much. Like she loves and cares about me so fucking much. We see each other in such deep ways. And I wanted that to fucking work. And I think I also didn't want it to work. So coming at like life now, I just want I want there to be I want to be hopeful about this. One of the things that's died for me is like the magic of romance. Like it doesn't, and I don't want to live in this like it's always going to be work, but I also want to have a perspective as like, oh yeah, sometimes you have to work it, right? I want there to be like a natural, easy flow to things, and at the same time, I'm not going to be the kind of guy that's just like fucking ejecting out when it's like, this isn't easy for me right now. I just want relationships to work so bad. It's so worth it, you know, to figure out how to get into those places where you're friends with each other, you care about each other, you want what's best for each other. And it's so fucking messy. We get so enmeshed. I married my wife when I was like 22 or something, right? We grew up together for 20 years. So just totally enmeshed. And we became so many different people in that amount of time. And it seemed like who she was, who I was like going in different, like I'm not gonna betray myself of who I am to be the kind of person that would make this easier or fit better. I don't know. I just want relationships to fucking win. I do. Because the kids need it on one hand. They don't. I mean, I'm living proof that well, we'll see. Like, you know, knock on wood. Like we'll see where but like that idea of connection being the thing that I evaluate myself by, that I get a lot of mileage out of that because I don't know the right answers for most of the parenting shit, but I can I can tap into my son and be like, where are you at? Like, what's this like for you right now? Like I can have a little curiosity there. I can do the same thing with my ex-wife and my daughter. And like, that's the ultimate, that's the skill. I love that skill. Something that Sutcliffe said in that video we made together, where he's doing the workout.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, the master skill is realizing the projections that people are having on you, holding that in some way, but also presencing yourself with authenticity. Because like, Cal, how cool do you want to get, dude? How much more cool do you want to get? Right? The way that you walk into it, I was talking with a friend and she's just like not aware at all that how intimidating she is to other women. And I'm just like, and she couldn't even hear it. I'm like, well, life gets better for you when you like start to own that and realize this projection that they're having on you. And you can kind of orient towards it and like not taking it personally, you know, that people are going to have these projections of you and really, and I like the projection when it's a good one.
Sure.
I love it. I get so much fucking juice from it. You know, it's like, yeah. I fucking crushed that back there. Those guys thought I was cool.
Yeah.
You know,
oh, God,
you get some juice from it, but to show up authentically with my uncertainties as well in the midst of, without having to like go like, you think I'm cool, but I'm actually really quite a dweeb, whatever, you know, I don't know. But with you, you're so fucking cool. You're so interesting. You're really, you seem to know how to turn on the discipline really well. That's something I'm super inspired by in you. And you also seem to know how to like dream and go like, fuck it. I want to be a podcaster. Yeah, I'm going to wear a big hat. Like, yeah, I'm going to go like do this RFK thing. Like, yeah, I'm going to like, let's fucking go. I love that. And you could have just gotten fat on a houseboat a long time ago. You know? It's that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's time for me to turn the discipline and structure, roll that back in. I'm feeling it just slipping away a little bit and giving myself the grace of like, okay, you're in a little bit of a season right now.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, don't come in with the shame.
Yeah.
You're fucking broken. Here you go again. It's like, hey, what's going on underneath all this?
I've seen you motivate yourself out of shame and you get a lot of mileage out of it.
I sure do.
You do. It's a powerful motivator, right? I'm not going to be like that.
Yeah.
Like, but it is not infinite, you know, and it ends up depleting it. It's like coffee. It's like we're borrowing energy from the future. It's like we're depleting something down the road a bit. And then I think that the Chinese medicine folks talking about harmony being the thing where it's like, all right, there's just enough of this shame without it going full floor. Like there's just enough of this like gentle, relaxed ease. I do think that's the way, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, because to be devoid of it, I don't know what I would do. There is real power in having.
Yeah, because sometimes I do shameful shit.
Yes,
and like there's definitely stuff that I'm ashamed of.
Yeah.
I think that's probably healthy.
Yeah, yeah,
totally. You know. Yeah.
Well, shit, man. How can people connect with you?
Chase W Reeves on Instagram. Chase Reeves on YouTube. Holla at your boy. If you listen, send me a DM. Be like, I think you're full of shit here, but I like this part there. And other than that, yeah, those are the places. Those are the places. Yeah.
Awesome. Great having you on. I love you, man.
Love you, dude. This is great.
Hell yeah.